Jaguars.com coverage of the NFL Scouting Combine continues from the Indiana Convention Center in Indianapolis. This is Huddle Up. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, Bucky Brooks, and Cynthia Frelund, NFL media analytics expert. We're running deep on this show today.
Yeah, deep.
How we doing, Buck? What's up, Cynthia?
Great,
How
man.
are you?
I'm great. It's so good to see you. I've always loved working with Bucky, you know? Like, you guys try to steal him for most of the season, but, you know, it's fine.
It's all good. It's all good.
We'll
You
do
want him back?
path to the draft. Path to the draft.
They
I want him
may,
back.
yeah, they may try and orchestrate a trade. They may try and swap me out for you, Cynthia. You never know.
You know, I would love to come down to Jacksonville.
Oh, sure, Duval.
Nice beaches. We got it all.
Only if I get that quarter zip you're
Oh,
wearing.
well, I mean, you're not the first person this week to ask for it, actually. Let's start with the 30,000-foot view of the Jaguars. 8-3 start. 1-5 finish. And here they are, 9-8. New defensive staff. A lot of things have happened. So what's your view of the Jaguars heading into this offseason?
I think there's, it sounds, it probably didn't feel good as a Jags fan because you had such huge expectations and it didn't match it. But I don't actually think they're in a bad spot. Like, this is much better than maybe people. When you have this, you know, a really important position where you throw the ball kind of set, makes the whole rest of the stuff work out a lot better, right? So I think it's tinkering a little bit here and there. Obviously, you know, the longer a coach can be with a GM, can be with a team, you get more on the same page and make everyone kind of row the boat in the same direction. What is that cheasy thing? We all need to row in the same direction.
PJ
exactly. Row the boat, right? But, you know, I think the longer they're together, the better it will. It'll improve the draft. I love your analytics guy. Ryan Paganetti is the best. So I think there's a lot of great things coming up.
We tend to pick apart the team we cover, and fans tend to pick apart the negatives. And Trevor struggled in the last 4 or 5 games of the season. Mostly, I think, because of injuries. Again, from the 30,000-foot view of somebody who doesn't see him every week, but who is looking at him in comparison to the rest of the league, just talk about Trevor a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe he gets underrated because, when you have in the same division, the expectations for C.J. Stroud last year were nowhere near where they ended up being. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone thought the Texans were going to win 2 games, 3 games, and it's in the same division, and it just feels different, right? Like, they have this big change, reset. You know, obviously everyone's looking at the quarterback position there for all the reasons that we can name, but it worked out really well for them. And that just feels like this weird comparison right next to a team that literally had the most impressive playoff victory just a season prior. So it was I think that's where people maybe it's easy to pick. Of course, you love something. Want to pick it apart. You want to know everything about it. But I think dialing it back a little bit healthier, a better O-line. I'm sorry. Fix a little O-line.
You have to be sorry.
No, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
And then another year of, I would like Doug Peterson to call the plays. I'm not in charge here, but, I think that would be a really good thing for Trevor.
Wow, I mean, we're here firing shots at the offensive line, firing shots at we want Doug Peterson to do it for us Taylor.
I do.
Guns blazing.
Some of that guns
blazing. I'm just saying,
blazing.
why would I want to take, if I've got Doug Peterson, I want him to tell me what to do. Why would I got the Maserati? I don't know, these fancy cars.
I get it.
I'm not driving the Prius, you know what I mean? If I don't have, I'm not saying he's a Prius. I'm just trying to do a car analogy. But
I get it. So in thinking about that, because you briefly talked about the landscape at quarterback, but in this division, we talk about 3 young quarterbacks, and then Trevor Lawrence is the established quarterback.
Yeah, he's the old man now.
He is the old man.
Yeah, right?
So let's talk about the quarterbacks in the division. How does Trevor stack out with C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Will Levis? How do you expect that to continue to play out?
I think this is a low-key good quarterback division. Anthony Richardson will come back and hopefully remain healthy. We were high on him draft last year. It was a promising start. I would love to see it continue, but I don't know who he is yet. I don't think anyone can. It's exciting, but he just hasn't played enough. We don't know. I think C.J. Stroud really benefits from, obviously Bobby Slowick, Gerard Johnson, all of that infrastructure that's in place to help him really succeed was part and parcel to what, he's awesome on his own, but everyone needs the surrounding cast to make them better as well. So that's interesting to me. I don't know what's going on in Tennessee. I don't know what I'm going to see. I know that's a big arm.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, in all directions. Right?
But again, it's like it's kind of unfair with him too, because like that was a weird end of the year. No.
Yeah, I mean, like all
like
of it.
weird, like weirdness. I don't know. I'm not in the building. I don't know what the I don't have as, but it's just like it felt weird from the outside. So okay, I wasn't expecting Mike Vrabel not to be there. So now we reset. We center on things. They've got a lot of money, the Titans, so they can whatever. But I'm happy with old man Trevor. If I'm even this the old grandpa of the division.
That is nice.
Cynthia Frelund with us. This is Huddle Up. Where are you with Calvin Ridley and this the offensive weaponry around Trevor? And it felt like it was a totally different offense when Christian Kirk was out of the equation. Zay Jones was injured a lot of the year, and then Calvin Ridley is the guy that's coming up to free agency.
I like Calvin Ridley. I'm a fan of his ability to run super crisp, pristine routes. He's been that way since he was in college. He was that way in Atlanta. Like, that is what this man can do. So I think it's all going to come down to figuring out, like, they've got, I don't know if anyone really anticipated the cap being as high as it is. I think, most people thought it would be 15, 20 million more dollars. 30 is a lot. Yeah, you get a little more wiggle room. That changes the dynamics of free agency, and it changes the dynamics of the draft. This isn't as deep of a wide receiver draft as we've seen in recent seasons, right, Bucky?
It's not as deep at the top. Like, there's some guys at the top, and then it just kind of narrows up.
Exactly. Like, before you were like, there's like legit like 6-7 guys who are pretty darn good, right? Yeah. So, this year it's just not as deep. So it's all about replacement value as well. So, like, what do you like? How much are you going to pay for it versus what? It's because it's never like him or like Justin Jefferson. It's not like you're choosing between like that's not the math, right? It's like how much do we get him for, and then how do we fill out the rest of the pieces around the roster as well?
Do you have any thoughts? Ryan Nielsen comes in.
Love Ryan Nielsen, super smart.
Well, then your thoughts.
Well, look what happened in Atlanta last year. I mean, obviously, like Saints, the pedigree is there, the right pieces, but I don't know if last year this time Atlanta fans were thinking like, our defense is actually going to be like one of the strongest that we've seen in quite some time. Mm-hmm. I don't think people were saying that. And
what makes him special?
It was figuring out how to create a pass rush without having the amount of premier pass rushers that other teams have. It was leveraging the spine of the defense and getting Jesse Bates and figuring out how to the middle of that defense was very, very, like, they understood the assignment and it worked out, right? The spine of the defense was right.
No, the spine of the defense definitely was right. He comes in, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. He's talked about being able to kind of create a scheme that plays to the players. So when you look at the success that the Atlanta Falcons have, what was kind of like the biggest impetus by their quick rise or ascension to the top?
I think it was getting the right veterans in place to teach the people who were like not like a slightly above average, but like not, but younger, right? Like it's like if you get the guys who are like better than average and younger, but you get the scheme and they're all on the same page, then you actually have a really good team, as opposed to like, you need some stars, but you don't need all stars along the front. You need people who get it and know where they're supposed to go and how to react and how to make things like understand the assignment and execute.
Cynthia, always great to see you. You're a popular person here on Radio Row, so you've got places to be and go. We appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate hanging out with you guys. I'm never too – listen, I'm very popular, obviously. Just kidding. Nowhere near Bucky. This is the first time Bucky's had, like, even 5 minutes for me since, like,
my gosh. What are we doing?
What's going on, Bucky?
He's the king of the combine.
He's the king of the combine.
Just ask him.
People were like, hey, there's a throne over there. Is that Bucky's? I'm like, actually, it is. So
it is.
Thanks for letting me hang out with you for a few minutes, Buck.
It's all good.
Back with more in a moment. This is Huddle Up. Welcome back. Huddle Up continues from the Indiana Convention Center. Live like a VIP with a Daly's Place Blue membership. See Dave Matthews Band, the Doobie Brothers, Parker McCollum, New Kids on the Block, Bucky's group, and so much more as you enjoy guaranteed seats in the best locations and much more. Call 904-633-2000. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, Bucky Brooks, Cynthia Frelund out of here, popular here on Radio Row. Always good to get her thoughts on where the Jaguars stand. And she's all about the defensive coordinator, Bucky.
Yeah, look, I think that's the biggest move that was made in the offseason. Ryan Nielsen coming in to, I would say, upgrade the defense, because for a while there at the beginning of the season, the defense was kind of carrying the team while the offense was going through its struggles. But now it's about the consistency. You talk about just eliminating some of the things that plague the team. So a better pass rush, a more consistent pass rush. We saw Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen have success. Need to find another pass rush to be able to compete at a high level. And then in the secondary, what is going to be like the style that is preferred in the back end? Are they going to be an off team that plays soft coverage, keep everything in front, and then in the red zone they use tricks and gadgets to kind of keep people from scoring touchdowns? Or are they going to challenge people at the line of scrimmage? You heard Nielsen in his introductory presser talk about being nose-to-nose, taking away some of the easy throws, but not giving up the deep ball. Sounds great in theory, but can he get it done with his secondary as it's presently constructed?
Yeah, everybody would like to do that, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, so does the personnel – in your opinion, can it play that? Do they need to add it in the draft? How do they get there?
Well, I mean, I think some of the personnel definitely can play that. When you think about Tyson Campbell, like, he is definitely more comfortable being nose-to-nose. That's how he played at Georgia. So he wants to be a bump-and-run corner. It's one of the reasons why he didn't have a lot of interceptions in college, because his back was always to the throw, and he would make late breaks and late breakups on the pass. Darius Williams is one who is really comfortable playing off, but he can go and challenge people nose-to-nose. I would think that maybe you bring in another corner, because even though Antonio Johnson is slotted in to be a nickel, you still need to have more guys on the outside that can line up and play the style that they're talking about playing. I think the biggest addition would be Chris Richard, because as much as Nielsen will talk about what he wants to do, Chris Richard would be tasked with getting the secondary to be able to execute it at a high level. Had success back in his day with the Legion of Boom in Seattle, has done a really good job of developing people, young defensive backs throughout his tenure. Can he get this group to go from good to great? That would be the key to whether this defense plays at a high level.
How tricky is it? Draft, in theory, you draft 17th overall pick, draft a corner. And it's easy on paper to say, well, that guy comes in, he plays nickel, then he kicks outside to outside the next year. But my experience is nickel and outside can be different skill sets. So is it hard to automatically ask a guy that you think can be a starter long-term outside to come in and be a nickel, which to me is a guy who has to have awareness, all that stuff? Is that tricky?
It is tricky. There are two ways to think about the nickel position. Normally, your best player, your most experienced player goes in the nickel because you have to deal with all of the stuff. You're a half linebacker, half safety, corner, or whatever. So it requires you to know a lot about defensive ball. And so you want someone who has played a lot of snaps to kind of be in there. It's hard for a young player to jump in there. And so what you would do in a perfect world, one of those guys, Campbell or Williams, would kick into the slot. The new corner would come and play right corner because that's the corner that doesn't see as many throws. Okay. And then you're able to play that way.
That's hard to see with what.
Yeah, but that's not how we're presently constructed. So you have to make a decision. Am I going to just draft the skill set? Am I going to draft someone who's very comfortable inside in the nickel? Or is it a situation where maybe we feel good about the starting lineup where it's Williams, it's Antonio Johnson at nickel, it's Campbell. Draft a long-term situation because Williams and Campbell are free agents next year. Have someone that can come in maybe in the dime package when they go 6 defensive backs, let them get some experience so then next year they're ready to play as a full-time starter at one of those outside spots.
Hard to see a number 17 pick being a 6 defensive back.
He won't be a 6. He won't be a 6. He can. There are ways. There's ways you can rotate those guys in. Big nickel, little nickel. You can change the configuration where you get enough snaps to justify the pick.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot, though. It
is definitely a tricky spot.
It's trickier because you're not drafting an automatic starter.
Yeah, as we're presently constructed, because the other thing would be, like, how do you move all the pieces around? Because Wingard has been a guy that's kind of floated around and done some things. Some games he's the nickel, other games he's the ornament atop the Christmas tree. A lot of it depends on how good do you feel about, can we get one of these guys to go inside and play? A lot of that will be determined in OTAs and those things. But
the ornament atop the Christmas tree.
Yeah,
that's a new Bucky is.
No, the deep post player. Yeah, like you got to be able to, deep.
I think he just came up with that this week.
I don't know. The other part of the conversation with Cynthia a moment ago was wide receiver and Calvin Ridley, and to her point, and John, I know you've made a similar point before. I mean, if you give up 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns he had, you got to find those numbers somewhere, and Are you confident you can find him on the current team? Probably not, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to go out and find that somewhere. So from Ridley's perspective, he'll be one of, if not the top wide receiver in free agency if he goes to the marketplace. The strategy of franchise tagging, they have till March 5th. I know the conversations are ongoing, Buck, but this is a fluid situation. It sounds like they want him back from hearing him on the podium the other day.
Oh, yeah, I think they definitely want him back. When the salary cap jumped up, it made it very easy to envision Josh Allen returning, Calvin Ridley returning, and the team keeping Cam Robinson. Before, when you think about it being only an addition of 15 versus 30, you didn't know what's going to happen. Now you can bring all those guys back, and I think it's necessary to bring Calvin back because what it's going to do is going to give you the continuity on the outside. We really didn't get a chance to see the much-hyped wide receiver core play together due to injuries. You would like to see what it looks like with Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram on the field for significant games. Like if they
with
could play,
Calvin having some chemistry too.
Like 2 year, you would like to see how that works. And we talk about the offense works best operating inside out with Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk kind of setting the table, then Calvin having some and Zay Jones filling in some of the ups. You would like to see that play out. You would like to see them have an entire offseason where Trevor Lawrence and those guys can have the continuity. So you have to figure out a way to get it done. And I think it's interesting that Trent said, don't worry about the draft compensation.
That's right.
Because we can talk about second-round pick, third-round pick, or whatever. I do know this. If you have multiple twos, you can get the multiple threes, you can get the two back. You can trade away the 2 threes and get a 2 back if that's what you're worried about. And so that's not a thing. The main thing is you want to get Calvin done. So if you're going to use the franchise tag on Josh Allen, he doesn't hit the market. But the clock is ticking, and we only have a couple of days.
Clock's ticking.
Top of the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
That's where it's ticking.
Apparently so.
The ornament atop the Christmas tree.
Yeah. All right. And then, of course, quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence. Of course, Doug Peterson was asked about that. He is the guy, and they've got to do a better job in situational football with him, kind of keep him on track.
I would say the lesson to be learned, because coaches always learn from playoff experiences and those things. After watching the San Francisco 49ers have issues with the overtime rules, you will see a more concerted effort to talk to the team about all situations. Because a team may have lost a Super Bowl because they were unaware of some of the minor details, I would think that Doug Peterson will kind of pick up on that and say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure we explain all these situations to the team. We're going to talk to the team about red zone, goal, short yardage, when we can extend the ball over the line, because we saw that come up in the playoffs and it cost the Baltimore Ravens. All of those things will now be talked about, because you can't assume that just because a player's been in the league for some time that they know everything. So this will, not saying dumb it down, but you go back to high school and just make sure everything is clearly communicated so there aren't any gray areas when it comes to how we play and what we want to do.
Well, and if there's been an area where Trevor needs to improve, it's been that. Not that he's bad in situations, but as a first, second, third-year guy, he's still learning those situations. I think situation you could argue that some of that is causes the fumbles. Knowing sort of when to give up on a play, sort of being a little more aware there. I don't think it makes him a bad player that he hasn't gotten through it yet, because he's a young player. But as you move into 4th, 5th, 6th year, those need to be more veteran guy things that he does. So far, it's felt like young guy a lot.
Yes, and I will say this. In looking at Pat Mahomes' continued development, everyone will talk about the talent. The best thing that Pat Mahomes has done, he's always retained the game changer thing, but he's become a better game manager. One of the reasons why the Kansas City Chiefs were able to go on is, yes, his spectacular talent, but the way that he was able to change his approach based on the team that he had around him. When he had guys that were having problems catching the ball and the offense wasn't as dynamic, he learned how to play more small ball. Dink and dunk. They took care of the ball in the postseason. It is now challenging Trevor to understand the situation, but also understand what you have around him, the circumstances. Some games you have to step it up. Other games dial it back, because we're good enough to be able to win it because the defense is playing well. Just understanding all of those things comes with experience as he develops the expertise in being a franchise quarterback.
All right. That's all I got. Anything else on the docket?
No? Gotta go buy a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Christmas tree, got to put ornaments on it.
What a week. Nice to see you in person, Buck.
No, man, it was great. It was great being there. It was nice.
Let's do it next week online.
Okay, let's do it.
Right.
Let's do it. From afar.
Zoom
We'll
call.
Zoom call.
Right.
It'll be a podcast only next week. Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks, John Oehser, I'm JP Shadrick, our entire crew. Thank you for watching and listening to Huddle Up.